day, students, and today is a presentation on Learning Unit 3 for CRE1501 Creativity in the Early Years. I am your lecturer, Dr. A. Carrim, and you can email me on ecarrier1@unistar.ac.za. So the purpose of this presentation is the contents and outcomes of Learning Unit 3, and also to give you a brief introduction to help you become familiar with the content of Learning Unit 3. So remember, all this presentation is just a summary. It's not the entire content. There's a lot of things left out because it's not possible to create such a long presentation. And also look at the the content. It's basically learning creatively through music. So we're looking at the importance of music as an early learning experience, as well as the conceptual underpinnings of music in the early years. And we're also unpacking on some musical concepts and exploring, musicologists' ideas in relation to music experiences and implementing in the implementation of music in early learning, in terms of the learning environment, the people, the learning program, and we'll obviously reflect and conclude on this presentation. So the outcomes of this learning unit is basically, outlining the theoretical underpinnings that inform early learning in relation to music, engaging with the elements of music to use central concepts and inquiry tools to support learning, as well as drawing on theoretical underpinnings, including play-based pedagogies to set up an appropriate learning environment for the promotion and implementation of music in early learning. We're also translating, knowledge, your own knowledge, drawing on appropriate learning standards and other indigenous resources to design, plan, implement, evaluate, and reflect on meaningful music experiences. We also want to critically, reflect on the music experiences offered to children to improve your practice. Okay, so as per the other presentations, we're looking at the key concepts. Music is basically described as vocal, instrumental, or mechanical sounds having rhythm, melody, or harmony. When we look at elements of music, there are some universal elements, things like the genres and styles of music: pop, classical, jazz, soul, nursery rhymes. All of these can be incorporated into the classroom, and basically they will be explained in the text as well. Movement, the act or process of moving, a change of place or position or posture, a particular instance or manner of moving. And remember, in this unit, movement also refers to the natural or appropriate motion influenced by music. Playful pedagogies, this refers to a respectful, interactive teaching and learning approach where children are listened to, given reasonable independence or autonomy, and are encouraged to make choices. It's basically a playful pedagogical approach, which makes provision for playful learning for teachers to teach playfully. So we're looking at introducing it now. So in Learning Unit 2, we explored the value, of the visual arts in early learning and how to implement appropriate and relevant visual art activities for young children. So in this learning unit, we explore the first of the performing arts and the role of music and movement in early learning. So music is a pattern of melody. Basically, we're looking at rhythm, harmony, tempo, dynamics, and timbre, and these are combined to create repetition, variation, contrast. So these patterns are used to create music and respond emotionally and intellectually to our perceptions and interpretations of these patterns of music. And remember, music is an inherent part of our genetic makeup. Our bodies move rhythmically. And think of a heartbeat or respiration. Children learn to coordinate bodily movements that allow fluid, rhythmic movements. So many speech patterns have that rhythm, and people break out in a song, tap their foot or beat of a music, and hum or whistle when they busy in the class or whatever it is. As an ECCE teacher, you should have deep insight into the role of music in early learning and ensure that the implementation of appropriate music are incorporated throughout your daily program, as well as planning for specific music related activities as well. We're looking at 3.2, the importance of music as an early learning experience. So remember why music matters. Music is is important component of the performing arts. It comprises of many different activities, listening, moving, rhythmically, singing, playing musical instruments. So all these activities should be incorporated into a child's social educational context. And remember, this claim is also reinforced by the National Curriculum Framework, the NCF, which recognizes the value of music in early learning as it allows children to communicate creatively, sing, make music, dance, and explore movement. So if you look at this table, where you're looking at development areas like physical, the gross and fine motor skills coordination, where we're looking at dancing, finger rhymes, instruments, perceptual motor, where spatial and auditory awareness, movement games, listening to songs and doing the movements, social cooperation and interaction, where you do group singing, instrument sharing, emotional, where we give our students time to express joy, release feelings, with singing, clapping, spontaneous movement. Creative is when we're talking about imagination and self-expression, where new song lyrics, improvised movements allow them that creativity. Cognitive, this is memory, attention, neural growth, and problem solving. Examples would be rhythmic games, music and math language. And language and literacy, where sound awareness, vocabulary will start coming out, phonics, all of that. So this is where you'll see, you'll use rhymes, songs, lyric repetition. When it comes to numeracy, we're counting beats, timing, songs with number patterns. Aesthetic would be just music appreciation, exposure to instruments and genres. And spiritual, where maybe you use emotional and spiritual connection, gospel music, expressive movement, whatever the case may be. There's a lot more examples and things like that in your study guide that you need to look through. So remember, music as a creative play, music is basically something that you need to, basically offering this music experiences to children affords children opportunities to teachers opportunities to teach playfully. So offering children appropriate music experiences becomes a way to counter the increasing formal approach, that seems to be creeping into early childhood education, unfortunately. So one way to counter this formal creep is to give teachers good insight into well-planned and rigorous play-based methodologies, which include music education. Now we're looking at activity 3.1. You're basically going to reflect on music in your teaching practice. Part A basically is a self-reflection on music integration, where you reflect in a journal or in My UNISA, and you consider the importance, how prepared you need to be, how confident you need to be, how to be inclusive, how to use instrument play, how to overcome challenges and create solutions. Part B, building a music resource pack. It's very important to have that in a classroom, and sometimes collaborate with other students, and you can learn from others' responses, things like that. And also remember, a tip: a rich, culturally diverse music bag helps you meet the needs of every child in your care. Supports language, identity, and encourages inclusive, joyful learning, which is also important for you to consider. Okay, so now let's jump to 3.3, which is conceptual underpinnings of music in the early years. And now we're looking, music is described as, as vocal, instrumental, or, mechanical sounds having rhythm, melody and harmony. It is also, these patterns create repetition, variation, and contrast. So we respond to music emotionally and intellectually through interpretation. And we also need to say how we learn music concepts, through interactive experiences. We spoke about it: listening, singing, chanting, dancing, movement, drama, playing percussion instruments, and playful pedagogies in music education is very important. It's where learning happens through joy, autonomy, and shared discovery. And children learn playfully through exploration and interaction. Teachers and children co-construct knowledge together. Learning spaces should be respectful, engaging, all of that. It must be supportive, emotionally comfortable. And the key takeaway from this is use a playful, collaborative approach when introducing music elements. This fosters creativity, confidence, and a deeper connection to learning in early childhood. So we're looking at 3.3.1, where we need to unpack some musical concepts. And remember, we refer to several musical terms or concepts. And if you're going to implement a meaningful music program, it's helpful for you to have some insight into the meaning of these terms. According to Isabel Rains, there are many universal elements of music that feature in all genres and style of music, pop, classical, jazz, soul, nursery rhymes. And these elements include rhythm, melody, harmony, dynamics, tempo, timbre. And remember, these concepts are all very interrelated. They're usually all identifiable in any piece of music or song, and they cannot stand in isolation. And thus, jointly, they influence what it is that we hear. And you can look at, these core musical elements: rhythm, melody, harmony, tempo, dynamics, beat, pitch. You need to understand the description and also be able to understand examples in practice so that you incorporate this, and it's, with rhythm, it's a timing of music, drumming, marching, left and right, things like that. Melody, you can also see where they're singing happy birthday. There's a pitch, there's rhythm, just for instance, a happy birthday song or our national anthem. Harmony, two or more notes played. So all of that, like, can have a solo and a chorus. Lots of this happens in a concert as well of young children. Tempo, speed of the music, how fast, slow, all of that. And then the dynamics, the volume, loud, soft, increasing it, decreasing it, the beat, that constant pulse or timing in music. And then the pitch, how high or low a sound is, going higher, ascending, going lower, descending, all of that. You can read more about it in a table, a more detailed table in your study guide. And remember, although you will not be able to explain these concepts and elements to young children, you will introduce them, to children in many different teaching moments. So this will happen incidentally when you play, music or sing songs. You won't even realize it, but you're incorporating everything. And when we look at Activity 3.2, this is basically a self-exploration of the various music concepts and elements. And there are some, delightful video links on YouTube that is shared with you, things like Patake, Quiet Time, Rafi, all of those things, where you can really create that resource pack that I spoke about. It triggers different emotions, like Patake will be joyful and playful. In Nazi, Tuepe, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but this will trigger, a culturally rich emotions, things like that. Five Little Ducks, will be uplifting, comforting, all of that. So, and it can also give you that opportunity to, teach number concepts, whatever it is. It just depends the type of music concept and element that you choose. And like I said, you can share the responses on the MyUnisa platform so that you can all learn from each other. It's so nice to collaborate and learn from others because that's how you improve your practice. Okay, so now we're looking at 3.3.2, exploring some new musicologists' ideas in relation to music experiences in early learning. Many musicians have developed theories on how to best teach music to young children. So we are going to explore the ideas of three, namely of Dalcroze and Caudaly. These musicologists, all support an interactive, collaborative, playful learning approach to introduce music in the early years. So we're looking at Karloff. Karloff, he was a German musician and composer, known particularly for his operas and dramatic works and all of that. So his belief was all children are musical by nature, and then you get that 4 stages of music: imitation, where children are required to imitate musical concepts such as pitch, rhythm, tempo, exploration, where children then explore these elements using their voice and instruments, and improvisation. This comes after exploration, and children begin to apply some of the combinations together. And then composition is when children. So the core tools are body percussion, singing, speech, movement, created child-friendly instruments, things like xylophones, telephones, all of those things, and use folk tales, poems, authentic cultural music, and focus music before theory, experience over performance. And then we get, we're looking at Mealy Jake's Delcro's method, focus on mix. This is music and movement, which is integrating rhythmic movement, ear training, improvisation, and key elements of movement are time, tempo, the rate of speed, the duration, how fast, moderate, slow. Space will be the direction, distance covered, level, dimension, large, small, path, whether it be straight or twisted, and focused. And then the force, which is energy or power extended, the quality of movement and any adjectives to describe the movement. Example, heavy, light, sharp, energetic, gentle. And movement that stays stationary is called non-locomotor, while movement that moves through space is locomotor. So some non-locomotor movements remaining in one place include stretching, curling, clapping, snapping, all of that. Tap, stomp, twist, turn, conduct, sway, jump, bend, speak, stretch, swing, reach, all of that. So some locomotor movement through space include walking, sliding, skipping, running, leaping, galloping, hopping, jumping, slithering, creeping, rolling, jogging. All of these movements should be musical as well as focused and thoughtful. So yeah, it's basically building promoting confidence and trust in intuition and building musical awareness to movement. And then we're looking at, you can see a diagram also of the Dalcroze education on the in the study guide. It's basically an outline. And now we look at Zoltan Kodaly, the Kodaly method. Kodaly music, his belief was music education is right for all. Focus singing as the best entry to music. So basically, the best start to music education and most talented artists, he feels, can never overcome the disadvantages of education without singing. The uses are oral, visual, kinesthetic, and cognitive techniques. The solfa, things like do, re, mi. You can see it on figure 3.2 in the study guide. Teaching pitch, sight singing, and it's promoting folk songs and culturally relevant music. Sequential learning, start simple and grow complexity, that sort of thing. Yeah, so in an early learning center, ECC teachers could draw on aspects of the Kodaly approach. He is focused on the social and cultural context as well as the initial oral, visual, and kinesthetic experiences that I spoke about. His approach also highlights the importance of introducing and encouraging children to develop their singing voices. Okay, so you can also do activity 3.3 where you tell three approaches to music education. You also need to get figure 3.4 where you compare comparison of the similarities and differences between these three music education. It's very important to see, how things, how often Kodaly use the voice and speech to develop, how all of these things overlap and reflect in a journal task, and remember how you need to consider ways of integrating their methods in a playful, inclusive way, and consider the tools, strategies that fit different age groups, and how to use music for language, identity, and emotional expression. Okay, so now we're looking at 3.4, which is implementing an early learning music program. Remember, we have to consider this. Why music in ECCE? Music is a powerful play-based teaching tool, and it encourages the emotional expression that we spoke about. It also brings about concentration, language, rhythmical movement, and a high-quality program needs teacher confidence. You need to be creative. You need to be culturally aware. And when we talk about professional insight, which is very key to implement a quality play-based music approach, you need to draw from off Dalcroze and Kodaly, infuse music into their daily activities, routines, transitions, foster their active participation and expression. I cannot emphasize this more. And embedding music throughout the day, maybe the end of play or a lullaby at nap time while playing or doing art in language-rich activities, bring out the songs, the rhymes, and during transitions and calming periods as well. So you need to plan focus areas, listening, helping children tune into the sound and music, and also creating sounds, maybe using instruments, toys, whatever it is, developing singing voices, get them to repeat, to have that rhyme, with their songs and things like that. Music and movement, bring in the movement, let them enjoy themselves and let everyone participate. And remember, cultural exposure is very important, whether it be Western, African, Indian, traditional songs, whatever is important for them to understand and be culturally responsive. Also, active listening and sound creation across the ages. Remember, look at infants, what they need to do. Toddlers and young children. Remember, there is different stages that they go through, and simple listening activities. Where they close their eyes, guess certain sounds, match animal sounds to pictures, create that nonsense rhymes or playing games, introduce musical contrast, whether it be loud, soft, fast, slow. Let them experience all of that as well. And then you will also see you can do activity 3.4, where you plan and reflect on sound making activities. And then you look at activity 3.5, where you build a song repertoire task, 3 songs per age group. This is giving you an opportunity to really, reflect and consider all of this while you're still studying as well. And remember, encourage singing. It's very important to because it really supports the emotional, social, and language development. Encourages. It also basically lets children change words. Use their imagination or their creativity. And remember, when you're choosing songs, choose short and simple songs, easy melody, culturally inclusive, encourage repetition and movement, all of that. That's when the young ones really enjoy it. And when we look at music and movement, the national trigger for movement, babies move their arms, their legs, they jump, they twirl, they clap, let them respond in expressive dance, marching, peaceful music, cultural music, you name it, bring it to the, as long as it's age appropriate for our young learners. And also there's a lot of activities towards the end where you're looking at activity 3.6, where you curate a music collection, under different categories: folk and traditional, marching and tempo, high, low pitch, gentle, sleep music. And remember, as you create this, you'll be able to use it in your classroom. So you're really working towards practical activities in the classroom. You're also looking at making music joyful, bringing body movements. Also start your DIY instruments. You can always have a tab full of all these DIYs that you can use in your classroom. Maybe there's some things you bought, or teach children how to hold and play with them respectfully, so that you can keep it for many years as well. This is also very important to look after your things. 3.7 expects you to plan music and dance activity, for different age groups, and ensure safety, space, volume, and all of that. Make sure you have the resources to do this as well. And 3.8 is music plans for every age. So remember, they need to vary in genres, involve movement, instruments, singing, respect each child's participation. And remember, cultural awareness in music is so important. Use African traditions in your classroom, non-Western cultures, different types. Just, you need to look at different links and start creating that music resource guide for you. So now we finally got to the reflection. When we're looking at personal reflection prompts, as an ECC practitioner, take some time to reflect on the following: your relationship with music. What role does music play in your personal life? Do you see music as creative and aesthetic influence? How has your appreciation for music grown through this unit that we just spoke about? Music in early learning. What do you feel is the current, and what is your current understanding of music impact on holistic development, emotional well-being, language, motor, and social growth? And also draw from the insights from the musicologists, that we spoke about, and how did their methods affirm the value of movement, playfulness, child-led learning, cultural relevance. Look at planning for inclusion, how you will gather and create resources that are age-appropriate, culturally inclusive, joyful, and interactive. And when you practical implementation ideas are to make sure that you you design a stimulating music educational program for for the babies, toddlers, young children. It depends what age group you're working with. And remember, include repetition, movement, storytelling, and free exploration. Adapt songs to reflect children's cultures and languages, and use music to build confidence, connection, and calm routines as well. So we finally reached the conclusion, and the key takeaways are music supports every developmental domain. It brings joy, it promotes creativity, and deepens connection. Remember, children should be exposed to authentic, diverse, and high-quality musical experiences. And you need to understand the music elements. It's very important, whether it be rhythm, pitch, beat, tempo, all of that as well. Be familiar with teaching approaches by Off, Cordelli, and Dalcroze, and build a versatile music resource pack that you can take with you throughout your career. Weave music through the ECE curriculum, not isolated. And remember, music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, a flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Let music guide, inspire, and connect our children one playful rhythm at a time. All the best, students. So thank you for listening to this presentation. And I will be presenting Learning Unit 4 soon. So please watch out for that as well.